Welcome to Madison City Channel Know Your Candidate Interviews, co-sponsored by the League of Women Voters of Dane County. I am your interviewer, Marilyn Townsend, and I would like to introduce Mr. Isadore Knox Jr., who is running for Alder in District 14. Welcome, Mr. Knox.
Thank you.
As we begin, please give an opening statement about the educational, vocational, and civic experience you have which prepares you for this office and why you are running for Alder.
Thank you. I'm Isadore Knox Jr. and I have over 36 years of experience in state and county government, where I served mostly as a director or a manager. I have served 2 terms on the city council, uh, 2005 to 2007, and more recently, 2023 to 2025. I've also served on numerous government boards, committees, and commissions, as well as on nonprofit boards and leadership capacities. I've recently completed my capstone towards completing my social science bachelor's degree, and I've worked with a lot of fellow alders, community leaders, and citizens on a lot of community projects. Pretty much summarizes my background and experience. Again, I've lived in my neighborhood for over 30 years with my wife, Cheryl. I'm retired, but working part-time, and I've raised all of my 5 children on the south side of Madison. All of my children have at least bachelor's degrees, and we really feel good about the community that we live in that has stable neighborhoods. We've experienced quality schools, responsive city services, great parks and recreation. I just really love the South Madison district that I live in. Thanks. Mm-hmm.
How would you evaluate the city's current efforts to address homelessness and increase the amount of affordable housing? Are there additional steps the city should take to address these issues?
Well, first, in terms of affordable housing, I think the city has done a good job. One of the things we've invested almost $10 million in our affordable housing fund. The city tries to do land banking where they purchase vacant land so that we could use those for opportunities to develop additional housing. And I think the city's done a really good job of changing their zoning regulations to be more flexible. One example is where property owners can create accessible dwelling units. And I also am on the Community Development Authority, which really works hard at trying to find affordable housing, develop affordable housing across the city um, that people can afford. We do have a homelessness problem, like most cities have. We're currently constructing a men's housing unit, but I think the real challenge is we have to be able to understand the problem of homelessness. Some people are in homelessness because of economic reasons. Some people may have mental health issues. And then really the challenge is to outreach to those individuals, assess what their needs are, and provide that for them. So I think the city has done a pretty good job doing that. I think the key is to make sure that the housing that we develop in the future is diverse, it's obtainable, and it's equitable. And what I mean by that is diverse in providing a variety of housing options as it relates to cost, the types of housing, and the tenure of housing. It should be attainable by making sure that cost is appropriate for different types of households and individuals, and equitable in terms of supporting those individuals who disproportionately are excluded from this opportunity. That way we have fair and just access to housing for everyone. So it's a major challenge, but I think Madison is moving forward in trying to meet those needs.
What actions or programs would you support to enhance public safety in Madison? And in particular, what is your position on the use of body cameras by Madison police officers, given the recent demonstration project?
Yeah, public safety is really an important issue for our community. And I've always been someone that believes at this time, it's time for Madison to join a lot of cities of our size in providing body worn cameras for the Madison Police Department. Um, we've studied this issue, we've debated this issue for several years, and I'm again ready to support it. I think it's important that we know what occurs when we have interactions between citizens and the police. And I think it's especially important now with the possibility of having these federal law enforcement officers conducting activities in our city. I think we have to really work hard in making sure that we are protecting um, our most vulnerable citizens in our community. So I, we've had the pilot study. It's concluded that this is something is that will benefit Madison as a whole, and I think it's time for us to move forward with body worn cameras. Definitely.
In the wake of the recent referendum to increase property taxes, what are your priorities for the city budget?
Well, I think it's important for all of us to be mindful of the fact that where we all want to have um, essential services, uh, there's a cost to that. I was one of the individuals that did not support the referendum, but the citizens uh, overwhelmingly did support that. I kind of am someone that believes that you manage our budget a year at a time because we don't know what the future is in terms of what costs are going to be, what inflation is going to be. And just like we manage our own personal budgets based on what our income is and what our expenses are, I think we should use a similar approach in terms of the city budget. Um, so now that we've passed the referendum and we're looking at the next 5 years, I think it's going to be critical that we as a city really look at what we're funding, prioritizing them in an effective way, but more importantly, making sure that when we fund these services and activities, that we are moving the needle and getting what the citizens expect. So I think a big part of moving forward is not only funding, but looking at making sure that we're being effective and efficient in those services and making the necessary adjustments when we have to.
How should Madison balance the need for development with other concerns such as traffic, historic preservation, and conservation of natural areas?
Yeah, that's a good question. Any future development must have to take in consideration um, security and public safety needs of our resident community. I think it's also important that we look at traffic access and safety, not only for pedestrians, but for multimodal users, whether it's bikes or even cars. So it's important that the character of any neighborhood is protected and maintained by preserving those historical landmarks and not disturbing the natural surroundings that we have. We really have to cherish the assets that we have in Madison. Uh, and we need to do this both during construction and after construction. So I think it's going to be important that those protections are part of the development and design and function of these projects. I think these critical concerns need to be addressed early and frequently in the planning process prior to approving these projects. And the city has a lot of steps where we have an opportunity to not only make sure we're planning properly, but also allowing for citizens' input. So city planning professionals and other stakeholders all can be involved in this planning. But the most important thing is to have frequent input by those residents that are affected by that development, and community feedback is essential if we're going to have the kind of development that we want for our city.
What are the most critical issues that you see facing the people in your district, and what would you propose to address them?
Well, right now in my district in South Madison, there is quite a lot of plans and current development going on. So I think the most important thing is to make sure that the residents have input into that development so that any kind of new development fits into the character of the particular neighborhood that it's going into. So it's going to be important for the residents to know about these proposals ahead of time. It's up to the alder to try to make sure that they know about it early, that the residents have many opportunities to provide input into those projects. So we know we have a large affordable housing development that's coming to our district. And one of the things that the residents talked about is the density and the height of that, as well as the traffic. So we really want to work with those developers to make sure that the appropriate amount of housing is in those neighborhoods. I think the other thing is we got to have mixed types of development, not just affordable housing apartments, but we have one of the lowest ratios of single family housing. And we need to look at building more single family housing for working residents to help stabilize those neighborhoods. A lot of commercial development will be coming. We got a Madison College, one of our community partners, is looking at a daycare center. So we want to support that initiative. We have a, a, a Black Excellence project coming that we're really excited about, and where people can go and experience different cultures. We have a business hub, which is supporting a lot of the small businesses and providing opportunities for those businesses to develop as well. So we have a lot of moving parts. Another big issue going along with that is traffic. There will be a lot of projects related to uh, developing Park Street and Highway 151. John Nolan Drive is going to be redeveloped soon, as well as some of our smaller streets like Badger Road. So it's going to be important that the citizens know when those developments are coming, and we are going to have to be patient a little bit with as those developments come online in the next several years. So I think those are some of the key issues that are going to be impacting our community in my district.
Mr. Knox, what would you like to say to the viewing audience as we complete this interview?
Well, what I'd like to say is that I've worked hard to try to be a voice for the residents in my community. Um, I've lived in my community for over 30 years. I understand some of our concerns as development comes, some of our needs for affordable housing, and even just making sure that we get the responsive city services that we need. I think because of my background and experience, I'm the person that can be that voice for our community. As I mentioned before, I've been on the city council, just finishing my second term on the city council. I have a lot of background and experience for over 30 years of working in state and county government. And I also work on a lot of the community boards and commissions that impact our residents. So I'd be honored to represent the district for another term. And I hope that people will consider me and support me as I run for reelection as your alder for the 14th district.
I want to thank Isadore Knox Jr. for speaking with us and thank the viewing audience for taking the time to know your candidates. I want to remind everyone that the general election is Tuesday, April 1st, 2025. Every election is important. Please vote. On behalf of Madison City Channel and the League of Women Voters of Dane County, thank you for joining us.